Okay, so listen, I'll give the 1 minute commercial here that everybody's heard before. Gold is eternal, and it's almost indestructible. The gold that you may be wearing in your jewelry today might have been a piece of jewelry 2,000 years ago. It has been deeply woven into the cultural fabric around the world and into the global monetary system. And if you believe you're about to dislodge gold in places like India and China, which are the world's largest buyers of gold, and where it's deeply ingrained in the culture, I think you don't know a lot about India and China. So in terms of its status as money, listen, I'm sure if the US could roll back the clock, they would probably do away with gold, because the US relies on its status as having the premier reserve currency, and it abuses that status to achieve its goals by, again, printing lots and lots of money. I can't see how Bitcoin is going to be recognized as money in every country in the world in the way that gold is. Its stability as a store of value is vital to managing the central bank reserve currencies, and it's viewed as protection against other fiat currencies. Central banks own 33,000 tons of gold, which is 20% of all the gold ever mined, and they're furiously buying it year after year after year. And there's a reason for it. And I can't say the same for Bitcoin. It's not owned by any of the central banks. It's extremely unlikely it ever will be. And I think Bitcoin makes a much easier target than gold if it becomes a threat. And the central banks are never going to destroy gold. It'd be akin to shooting themselves in the foot. Bitcoin they have no allegiance to, so they can go after that in spades. And gold, one of the other misconceptions, and I think where people get mixed up with the Bitcoin comparison, is that gold is not designed to moonshot through the roof like some tech darling. It's designed as a store of value against inflation, the devaluation of currencies, and sharp equity downturns. It's been tested time and time again throughout history. Bitcoin has never been tested, especially in a financial crisis, because Bitcoin was introduced after the 2008 crisis. In the meantime, gold has doubled since then. Gold benefits in times of crisis and in certain times of economic expansion because of its dual purpose of use in jewelry and industry. If, God forbid, there were ever a war, I would prefer to have my money stored in gold, which is going to be safe from cyber attacks on both the internet and the power grids. Now, to be fair, and I think also that any time that there's a currency crisis, and this is what I'm afraid of, people will always flee to gold. It happens every time. So, but to be fair, I think it's good to point out that central banks do try and manipulate, in my opinion, they try and manipulate and manage the gold price, because the gold price is, in a sense, the canary in the coal mine as to a nation's fiscal health. So any spike in the gold price, yeah, the central banks will try and manage that. But they're never going to try and kill its value because, again, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot. It's a necessary evil. The U.S. alone, 77% of its reserves, foreign reserves, are in gold. That's 4% of all the gold in the world. And China is only declared 3%, but again, they're the largest producers of gold in the world and the largest importers of gold in the world, and they're accumulating at a very rapid rate, and no one really believes that what they've declared is truly what they own. They come out every couple of years and surprise the market with increased reserves in gold. But here's the thing, it's respect with the US dollar that I have a real problem with Michael's approach to promoting Bitcoin, because he tries to have it both ways. On the one hand, he is panicking people into buying Bitcoin as a protection against this incredible M2 money growth, which he calculates at 20% a year and going forever at 20% a year. If he's right, and I don't disagree that that's the direction the dollar is going in terms of money growth, that would create severe problems for the US dollar. It would obviously devalue the dollar over time because you would bring in a lot of inflation. And so, on the other hand, he claims that Bitcoin is not a threat to the US dollar. And I think in that sense, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I can only assume that the reason is he doesn't want to draw the ire or the attention of the U.S. government, because it's easier to go after gold. The authorities are never going to come to gold's defense. And actually, in a way, he may be doing them a favor by disparaging gold. But again, he can't have it both ways. You can't make that claim that Bitcoin is going to go to the moon and subsume all the value of every asset class and not be a threat to the US dollar. And I think he's probably a bit late, because now it's squarely on the radar of a lot of the policymakers, a lot of the pundits, and they're talking about the threat to the US dollar by Bitcoin. And it's going to be monitored very closely as the asset value goes up in price. You know, Bitcoin.
Just some wrapping comments, Frank.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so listen, there's a lot to be said about the way that Bitcoin is being pitched as a decentralized currency, but it's idealistic to think that the government's going to allow that kind of anarchy. You know, I'm a lover of history and politics. I'm actually very deeply immersed in geopolitics. And I come from the Machiavellian school of thought when it comes to politics and power. And I'm a realist, and you may want things to be a certain way, but you have to see the ways things truly are. And anarchism has never worked throughout history.
Thank you.